What if I told you one of the most iconic Star Wars characters of the modern era was never created by just one actor? Because when most people think of The Mandalorian, they think Pedro Pascal, the voice, the emotion, the presence. But Din Djarin was always something bigger than that. A collaboration, a brotherhood of performances, stunt artists, armor builders, designers, puppeteers, filmmakers, and craftspeople all working together to create one legendary character. And now with The Mandalorian and Grogu finally giving Brendan Wayne and Lateef Crowder top billing directly alongside Pedro Pascal, fans are realizing something very important. The Mandalorian was never just played, he was built.
This is the way. This is the way.
Welcome to Fatherly Fandom. I'm your host, Chris, and if you love Star Wars deep dives and all things nerdy, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Your inner nerd will thank you. So today, we're talking about the men behind the Beskar armor, how Brendan Wayne and Lateef Crowder helped create Din Djarin from day one, why Pedro Pascal has constantly defended and praised their work, and why this moment matters not just for Star Wars, but for stunt performers across Hollywood. For years, a lot of viewers assumed Pedro Pascal physically played the Mandalorian in almost every scene. But the reality is far more fascinating. From the very beginning of The Mandalorian, Din Djarin was essentially a three-person performance. Pedro Pascal brought the voice, emotional nuance, and the unmasked scenes. Brendan Wayne crafted much of the character's physical language and gunslinger presence, and Lateef Crowder delivered the brutal combat style, athleticism, and stunt choreography that made Mando feel dangerous. According to interviews over the years, Pedro himself openly acknowledged this collaboration, saying the character became a community collaborative effort. And honestly, that makes perfect sense because Din Djarin wears a helmet almost the entire time. That means body language becomes everything. The way he turns his head, the way he draws his blaster, the way he stands silently in a doorway, the way he protects Grogu without saying a word. Those tiny physical choices are the character. And Brendan Wayne's story honestly feels like something out of a movie itself. The grandson of the legendary Western actor John Wayne, Brendan revealed recently that before getting hired for The Mandalorian, he was literally bartending while trying to support his family. Then suddenly, he gets a call in for a mysterious secret project. No details, no title, no idea it was Star Wars. And eventually, that audition turned into one of the most important physical performances in modern sci-fi television. What's incredible is how much Brendan influenced Din Djarin's identity. He wasn't just a body double. He developed the cowboy-inspired stillness that made The Mandalorian feel like a wandering samurai gunslinger. In interviews, Brendan explained that he intentionally studied restraint and minimal movement, inspired partly by his grandfather's classic Western performances. That calm, deadly stillness, that silent intimidation, that iconic gunslinger silhouette, a massive part of that comes from Brendan Wayne. Then there's Lateef Crowder, and if Brendan Wayne gave Mando his Western soul, Lateef gave him his warrior spirit. Lateef already had an incredible background in martial arts and stunt performances before Star Wars, and once he stepped into the armor, he completely transformed how Din Djarin moved in combat. The aggression, the speed, the close quarters brutality, that wasn't accidental. Reports and interviews surrounding the series described how Lateef trained extensively for major fight scenes, especially the Darksaber duel with Moff Gideon. And honestly, you can feel it on screen. The Mandalorian doesn't fight like a superhero. He fights like a heavily armored survivor. Every punch feels heavy. Every flamethrower blast feels desperate. Every movement feels tactical. That physical storytelling helped make Din Djarin believable. And this is where Pedro Pascal deserves a massive amount of respect, because throughout all of this, he never pretended The Mandalorian was only him. In fact, he's constantly done the opposite. Pedro repeatedly praised Brendan Wayne and Lateef Crowder publicly, even joking that they were the other two daddies of the show. At one point, Pedro openly admitted they do the heavy lifting. And recently, while promoting The Mandalorian and Grogu, he once again described Din Djarin as a collaborative character built by multiple performances. That matters, because Hollywood historically has a terrible habit of hiding stunt performances behind major stars. But Pedro Pascal never treated Brendan Wayne and Lateef Crowder like invisible replacements. He treated them like creative partners. And now, finally, the industry seems to be catching up. When audiences saw The Mandalorian and Grogu, credits listing Brendan Wayne as the Mandalorian suit performer and Lateef Crowder as the Mandalorian stunt performer directly alongside Pedro Pascal, fans like me and you celebrated that online. Because for once, the illusion wasn't hiding the artist behind it. It acknowledged them. And honestly, that feels overdue. Stunt performers shape modern cinema in ways audiences barely even realize. They create movement, combat, physical emotion, character identity, and in the case of The Mandalorian, they literally help define one of Star Wars' greatest new heroes. But even beyond the performers, none of this works without the artist who designed the armor itself, because Din Djarin's Beskar armor instantly became one of the most recognizable character designs designs in modern pop culture. That look came from the incredible work of Lucasfilm designers, costume artists, armor fabricators, and legacy effects teams working under creative leaders like Doug Chiang and the Lucasfilm art department. The armor had to feel classic enough to honor Star Wars history while still looking distinct from Boba Fett. And somehow, they nailed it. The silver Beskar plating, the worn cape, the Western-style silhouette, the rifle across the back. It instantly communicated who this character was before he even spoke. And the practical effects companies like Legacy Effects helped continue the tactile, lived-in Star Wars aesthetic through armor fabrication, creatures, and physical props. And what's beautiful about all of this is that The Mandalorian became iconic because every single person involved treated the character seriously. The actors, the stunt performers, the armor designers, the puppeteers operating Grogu, the cinematographers, the fight coordinators, the sound designers. Everyone contributed pieces of a character audiences emotionally connected with. And honestly, that's what Star Wars has always been at its best. Collaboration. Even George Lucas's original trilogy worked best because hundreds of artists came together to create something larger than themselves. And Din Djarin may be the perfect modern example of that philosophy. Because when people talk about The Mandalorian years from now, they probably won't just remember the helmet. They'll remember the humanity underneath it, the quiet body language, the weary movements, the protective instinct, the emotion hidden behind cold Beskar. And that performance didn't just come from one person alone. It came from Pedro Pascal, Brendan Wayne, Lateef Crowder, the costume artists, the stunt teams, the armor designers, and an entire creative family who helped forge Din Djarin into a legend. So thanks for watching, guys, and if you enjoyed this video, make sure you like, subscribe, and join us here on Fatherly Fandom for more deep dives into the stories, creators, and characters shaping modern fandom. So stay nerdy, my friends. May the Force be with you, and as always, I will see you next time.